Hello everyone. I've noticed a number of you playing the Pac-Man game that came with Scratch, and I hope you'll take some time to look at the code that makes it work. It's actually surprisingly simple and very clever, and illustrates a number of techniques that are very useful with Scratch. So first of all, to make sure you can find it, let me look for it here. And to go through the whole finding process, the drive I'm running Flash on running Scratch on rather, happens to be P, and Scratch happens to be right here. Then you look at the projects folder and games, and here's Pac-Man. And let's load it. If we go to File and Project Notes, there are actually some notes about how the project works. You can read that on your own, and I'll step through it here. First of all, let's notice that all the stage does is play the music forever. So when you click on the green flag, the music starts playing over and over again. It's very useful. And this is one principle I want to stress to you, to start a number of things going at once with the green flag. It can simplify your code. And we'll see this when we look at the scripts for the Pac-Man. When you click the green flag, it first of all uses this go to command to position the Pac-Man in the upper left corner here. And then there's a forever loop that changes its costume every 1/10 of a second. If we look at the costumes, we can see that's just the Pac-Man opening and closing its mouth. And that's all this does. And since this is all by itself over here, we can basically forget about it and worry about moving and steering the Pac-Man, and the costume just takes care of itself over here, and we can just forget about this. It's handled for us. When the green flag is clicked, the third thing that happens, the first two being the sound and the costume changes, the third thing that happens is moving the Pac-Man 2 steps unless it runs into a wall. Now how do we know if it runs into a wall? Well, there is this condition whether the color black is touching the color green. And how does that work? Well, I showed you in class how to have something happen, in this case a score change, when a sprite is touching a particular color. But here we're having a condition where two colors are touching. How does that work? Well, let's look more closely at how the Pac-Man is drawn here. For each of the costumes, there's a little black dot out in front of it. I don't know if this color matches the color behind here. It would probably be safer if it didn't. But at any rate, there's a little dot of color out front, and that acts as sort of a bumper for the sprite. If we look at the other costume here, we can see that it also has that little black dot in the same place. And as I suggested, that runs out in front of the sprite, acting as a bumper. So as long as that bumper is on green, which is the maze path, it lets it continue. If it goes off the green, that means it's hit some sort of wall. And if we go back and look at the script code, this loop keeps going forever as long as black is touching green. In other words, as long as the sprite bumper is on the path. So when you're drawing a maze, the only condition is that the path should be green and the wall should be some other color, and then everything takes care of itself. And finally, all the arrow keys do is point the sprite in a different direction. And that's the part the game player controls. So let's run this and watch how this works. The music is playing. You can't hear it on my recording, but the sprite kept moving until it ran into a wall. I think you can see the black dot that is out into the wall here. That's how it knows it's in a wall. If I press the down key to change direction, that spot moves off the wall and the sprite moves again until it hits the wall. So what about the red goal over here? How does that work? Well, as I indicated, the stage has nothing. All it does is play the sound. And the maze itself is a sprite with multiple costumes. And you can have as many levels as you have costumes. So that makes it very simple. And in order to keep the mazes lined up, you can just if I wanted to make another level, all I would have to do is copy this and then change it somehow. But let's look at the script for the maze. That too is very simple. What happens here is that, well, basically nothing happens until the black, and that's the bumper on the sprite that I talked about before, touches the red, which is the goal. And then we have a next costume command, and for the maze, the costume is just a maze configuration. So this very, very simple code here takes care of moving the Pac-Man to the next level. Now, as I indicated, this is a very simple script. So if you think really hard about these techniques and make them very natural for you to use, I'm sure you can come up with something really interesting. For instance, as an exercise, you could add another loop that would see if the sprite bumper is touching little prizes. Those could be other sprites. And when it touches the prizes, you could make them disappear and increment the score or something like that. So I hope that gives you something to think about, and I hope you enjoyed this video.